The Silicon War, Part 1. First Contact. High Admiral Kvex of the Kraxan Empire stood motionless aboard the bridge of the Eternal Crystal, his crystalline form refracting the starlight as he studied the blue-green world before him. His science officer, a younger crystal formation designated Tizur, presented the preliminary analysis of the third planet in this unremarkable solar system. Most peculiar, High Admiral. The dominant species appears to be carbon-based, maintaining homeostasis through highly inefficient chemical processes. They require constant material intake and expel significant waste. Their computational center, what they call a brain, requires continuous chemical fuel and operates at temperatures that would melt our lowest-grade storage crystals. Kvex's crystalline structure vibrated with what passed for amusement among his kind, and they achieved spaceflight with such fundamental flaws, show neither current technological level. The holographic display shifted, showing a cascade of images, combustion engines, primitive fission reactors, chemical rockets, and digital computers that still relied on silicon chips. Kvex's amusement grew. These creatures were using the sacred crystal in the most rudimentary way possible. Their most advanced computational systems, Tizur continued, still operate at speeds we achieved millennia ago. They haven't even begun to harness quantum crystalline processing. Their weapons are particularly primitive, mostly relying on chemical propellants and kinetic energy. Kvex moved closer to the display, his crystalline form catching the light from Earth's sun. These humans build their civilization on organic inefficiency and technological inadequacy. Yet they've spread across their world like a mineral virus, consuming resources that could be better utilized by the Empire. The Kraxan Empire had evolved beyond organic limitations eons ago. Their silicon-based crystalline forms needed only solar energy and raw minerals to grow and thrive. They viewed the messy, chaotic nature of carbon-based life as an affront to the universal order they sought to impose. What of their defenses? Kvex inquired, already contemplating the resource acquisition phase. Fragmented, High Admiral. They maintained separate military forces divided by arbitrary geographical boundaries. Their most powerful weapons are thermonuclear devices, but they seem reluctant to use them. Most of their military technology relies on projectile weapons and crude-directed energy systems. Kvex processed this information through his crystalline neural network. The harvest of Earth would be simple. Their quantum shields could easily deflect primitive kinetic weapons, and their crystal-focused energy beams would cut through human defenses like solar rays through vapor. Prepare a standard resource acquisition protocol, Kvex commanded. These humans are barely more advanced than the organic vermin we cleared from the Cygnus arm. Their planet's mineral wealth will serve a greater purpose in our hands. As the Eternal Crystal's crew began their preparations, Tizur noted something unusual in the data streams. High Admiral, I'm detecting some anomalies in their development pattern. Their technological progress shows unusual acceleration over the past century, and their adaptation rate to new challenges exceeds standard organic parameters. Irrelevant. Kvex dismissed the observation. They're still bound by their organic limitations. What can such flawed beings accomplish against the perfection of crystalline evolution? The Eternal Crystal began broadcasting the standard Imperial ultimatum across all electromagnetic frequencies. Inhabitants of Sol 3, you exist in violation of universal efficiency standards. Your resources will be reclaimed for optimal utilization by the Kraxan Empire. Resistance is futile and illogical. Submit to Resource Acquisition Protocol or face immediate dissolution. As the message echoed across Earth's communication networks, Kvex allowed his crystal structure to resonate with satisfaction. Soon, this world's minerals would join the greater crystal collective, and another inefficient organic civilization would be eliminated from the galaxy. But even as the Kraxans prepared their invasion, they failed to understand a fundamental truth about their soon-to-be adversaries. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in technological superiority or biological perfection, but in the very chaos and adaptability the Kraxans despised. The coming conflict would teach the Crystal Empire a harsh lesson about underestimating the power of organic ingenuity and the human spirit's resilience. The Silicon War was about to begin, and Earth's defenders would soon show the Craxan Empire that perfection often proves brittle in the face of human determination. The assessment. The orbital sensors of the Eternal Crystal captured every detail of human civilization as the Craxan Empire prepared for their invasion. Data crystals throughout the ship hummed with activity, processing terabytes of information about Earth's defenses, infrastructure, and military capabilities. But the Craxan's rigid analytical framework was about to lead them into a catastrophic error of judgment. Science Officer Tuzer presented his comprehensive assessment to the gathered command crystal cluster. His crystalline form projected detailed holograms of Earth's military bases, weapon systems, and defensive installations. The humans rely heavily on distributed command structures, he reported, with no central control node we can target for immediate victory. High Admiral Kvex interpreted this as primitive inefficiency. Their lack of unified control will make them easy to fragment and conquer. They cannot coordinate effectively without a singular command crystal. But Junior Analyst Rikai, a newly formed crystal known for processing data in unusual patterns, noticed something concerning. High Admiral, I've observed that human military units continue to function effectively even when cut off from their command structure. They have something they call initiative, the ability to adapt their tactics without direct orders. The command cluster vibrated in dismissal of this observation. The very concept seemed chaotic and unreliable to their crystalline minds. Their weapon systems are equally puzzling, Tuzer continued. They maintain numerous designs rather than standardizing on the most efficient options. Some units still employ projectile weapons despite having access to more advanced energy-based systems. The tactical crystal matrix calculated that such diversity would create logistical inefficiencies and labeled it another human weakness. They failed to recognize it as deliberate redundancy, a hedge against the failure of any single system. Kvex studied the human response to their ultimatum with growing disdain. Instead of an organized surrender, Earth's nations had erupted in a cacophony of different reactions. Some prepared for war, others attempted diplomacy, while still others proposed unprecedented international cooperation. Look at this chaos, Kvex broadcasted to his crew. They cannot even agree on how to submit to their inevitable conquest. Their emotional responses cloud their logic circuits, or whatever primitive equivalent they possess. But as the Craxans watched, something unprecedented began to unfold. The very chaos they despised was breeding innovation at an alarming rate. Human scientists, working in parallel across the globe, began developing new theories about crystalline life forms. Military strategists started adapting their tactics based on the limited data they had about the Craxan ships. Most disturbing to the Craxans' orderly minds was humanity's ability to function under extreme stress. Their monitoring crystals recorded humans working beyond their normal physical limits, improvising solutions with inadequate resources, and showing remarkable creativity under pressure. High Admiral, Rikai ventured again, I've detected an anomaly in human performance metrics. Their efficiency actually increases under threat conditions, contrary to all logical patterns. They're already adapting their technology based solely on our presence. Kvex's crystalline structure flickered with irritation. Irrelevant. Their primitive organic minds cannot possibly comprehend our superior crystalline technology. Begin the invasion sequence. As the Craxan fleet positioned itself for the first strike, they remained blind to the fundamental flaw in their assessment. They had analyzed humanity through the lens of crystalline logic, measuring efficiency, standardization, and centralized control. But they had failed to understand that humanity's greatest weapons were the very things they considered weaknesses: adaptability, creativity, and the ability to function in chaos. The invasion pods were prepared, their crystal matrices humming with deadly purpose. The Craxans' battle computers calculated a 99.98% probability of success based on their technological superiority. But they hadn't programmed their computers to account for human ingenuity, or the creative desperation of a species fighting for survival. As the first wave of Kraxan forces prepared to descend upon Earth, they remained unaware that their perfect crystalline logic was about to encounter the beautiful chaos of human resistance. The Silicon War would prove that not all battles are won by the most advanced technology or the most logical strategy. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon is the unpredictable spirit of a species that refuses to submit to the cold calculus of conquest. The invasion begins. The invasion of Earth began with crystalline precision. Thousands of Kraxan drop pods streaked through the atmosphere, their quantum shields deflecting missile attacks as if they were nothing more than gentle rain. High Admiral Kvex watched from the eternal crystal, his form resonating with the certainty of victory. The first sign that something was wrong came 18 minutes after initial deployment. High Admiral. Teaser's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Drop Pod Cluster 7 reports complete mission failure. Their quantum shields, they're not functioning properly. Kvex's structure vibrated with disbelief. Impossible. Our shields are perfect. Display the combat data. The holographic replay showed something that defied Kraxan military doctrine. The humans had figured out that while the quantum shields were impervious to energy weapons and explosive force, they had a critical weakness. They couldn't maintain coherence under sustained physical pressure. Earth's militaries had quickly adapted, using simple tungsten rods and depleted uranium projectiles to effectively pin down and crush the Kraxan warriors. They're using primitive kinetic weapons. Kvex observed, his crystalline structure crackling with anger. How are they penetrating our defenses with such obsolete technology? The answer came from an unexpected source. Junior Analyst Riquet had been processing combat data from multiple fronts. High Admiral, the humans are exploiting our shield harmonics. They've discovered that continuous physical impact disrupts the quantum field stability. They're not trying to overpower our shields. They're wearing them down through persistent attack. The situation deteriorated rapidly. In urban areas, human forces had turned their own infrastructure into weapons. They flooded streets with water, then electrified it, causing devastating interference with Kraxan crystalline systems. In deserts, they used concentrated solar reflectors to overheat the invaders' thermal regulation systems. In Arctic regions, they found ways to flash freeze the Kraxan warriors, exploiting their crystalline nature against them. How? Kvex demanded, his form now pulsing with agitation. How are they adapting so quickly? Tizer's analysis was troubling. They're sharing information globally. High Admiral. When one group finds an effective tactic, it's immediately distributed worldwide. They're learning, evolving their strategies in real time. The Kraxans had expected to face a fragmented response, with Earth's nations fighting independently. Instead, humanity had united against the common threat. Scientists across the globe collaborated, sharing data and developing countermeasures. Military forces coordinated their efforts, combining their strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. Even more disturbing was humanity's psychological warfare. They had quickly realized that Kraxan crystalline forms were sensitive to certain sonic frequencies. Soon, human forces were deploying modified sound weapons that could shatter lower-grade crystal warriors and disrupt the coordination of higher-grade commanders. They're using our own structure against us, Riquet observed. Every weakness they discover is immediately exploited and improved upon. Their learning curve is exponential. Kvex refused to accept the mounting evidence of failure. He launched the second wave, confident that overwhelming force would succeed where surgical precision had failed. But the humans were ready. They had developed electromagnetic pulse weapons specifically tuned to disrupt Kraxan neural patterns. They had created new armor-piercing rounds that could target the precise crystalline fracture points of Kraxan warriors. Some human units had even figured out how to capture and repurpose Kraxan technology, turning the invaders' own weapons against them. High Admiral Tizer reported, his crystalline form dimming with concern. We're losing ground on all fronts. The humans, they're not fighting according to any known tactical doctrine. Each unit seems to be improvising, creating chaos that our battle computers cannot predict. The Kraxan command structure, designed for perfect efficiency and coordination, began to falter in the face of human unpredictability. Their carefully planned invasion was devolving into a chaotic struggle against an enemy that seemed to thrive in disorder. As the Earth's defenders pushed back against the crystalline invaders, Kvex faced a horrifying realization. The Kraxans had evolved beyond organic limitations, achieving what they thought was perfection. But in doing so, they had lost something crucial: the ability to adapt, to think creatively, to embrace chaos as a tool rather than a flaw. The Silicon War had only just begun, and already the perfect crystalline empire was learning a harsh lesson about the true nature of strength. As night fell on the first day of the invasion, the Kraxans' certainty had been shattered as thoroughly as their frontline warriors, and humanity's greatest weapon, their incredible adaptability, was just beginning to show its full potential. Turning the tide. 3 weeks into the invasion, Earth's scientists made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Dr. Sarah Chen, working with a global team of researchers, had successfully reverse-engineered a captured Kraxan crystalline processing core. What they discovered sent waves of excitement through the human resistance. The Kraxans aren't just using crystals as technology, Dr. Chen explained to the assembled military leaders. They are crystals. Their entire consciousness is structured around perfect crystalline patterns. And that's their greatest weakness. In the orbital command chamber of the Eternal Crystal, High Admiral Kvex was facing his own disturbing revelations. The human resistance had evolved far beyond their initial defensive tactics. They were now actively targeting Kraxan vulnerabilities with increasingly sophisticated weapons. Impossible. Kvex's crystalline form vibrated with fury as another battle group reported catastrophic losses. How are they disrupting our quantum crystalline matrices? The answer came from an intercepted transmission. Humans had discovered that certain frequencies of ultrasonic waves could induce resonance cascades in Kraxan crystalline structures. They had weaponized this knowledge, developing devices that could shatter lower-grade crystal warriors and severely damage even the highest-grade command units. But it wasn't just the weapons that were evolving. Humanity's entire approach to warfare had adapted to exploit every weakness in the Kraxan military doctrine. They fought in small autonomous units that could rapidly change tactics without waiting for central command. They used their planet's diverse environments to their advantage, forcing the Kraxans to fight in conditions that stressed their crystalline forms. In the Amazon rainforest, guerrilla fighters used the high humidity to induce crystalline degradation in Kraxan units. In the Sahara, special forces deployed solar concentrators that could overwhelm the aliens' thermal regulation systems. In Siberia, rapid temperature fluctuations caused fatal stress fractures in the invaders' perfect crystalline forms. Junior analyst Rikai, whose unusual processing patterns had warned of human adaptability, presented a disturbing analysis to the command cluster. The humans are not merely defending anymore. They're actively studying our technology, improving upon it, and developing countermeasures faster than our predictive matrices can account for. The evidence was undeniable. Human scientists had begun developing hybrid technologies that combined their primitive systems with captured Kraxan crystal tech. They created weapons that could bypass quantum shields by exploiting the harmonics of crystalline structures. Their engineers had even started experimenting with ways to disrupt the Kraxans' solar energy absorption capabilities. Dr. Chen's team made another crucial discovery. The Kraxans' perfect crystalline nature, while incredibly powerful, made them predictable. Their actions were bound by rigid patterns of logic that humans could analyze and exploit. In contrast, human unpredictability had become a weapon in itself. Their perfection is their prison, Dr. Chen noted. They can't comprehend solutions that don't follow their crystalline logic. But we can. We can think outside their perfect patterns. The turning point came when humans launched Operation Chaos Theory. Instead of trying to match the Kraxen's technological superiority, they embraced asymmetric warfare on a global scale. They deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons that disrupted crystalline neural networks. They used acoustic resonators to shatter Kraxen command structures. They even developed nanoscale impurity injectors that could corrupt the perfect lattice of Kraxen crystals. Vex watched in horror as his invasion force began to crumble. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were innovating at a pace that defied all Kraxen probability calculations. Every defeat taught them new lessons. Every captured technology gave them new weapons, and every battle made them stronger. They're not following any logical pattern of warfare, Tuzur reported, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. Their tactics should be inefficient, their technology should be inferior, their resistance should have broken by now. But they keep adapting, keep changing, keep surprising us. The Eternal Crystal's battle computers, programmed with millennia of perfect crystalline logic, couldn't predict human actions anymore. The chaos of human creativity had introduced too many variables, too many possibilities that existed outside the rigid patterns of Kraxen's strategic doctrine. As Earth's defenders pushed back against the crystalline invaders, they proved that imperfection could be a strength. Their ability to think creatively, to embrace chaos, to learn and adapt had turned the tide of the Silicon War. The perfect crystalline empire was about to learn that sometimes the strongest materials aren't the ones that never break, but the ones that can bend, adapt, and grow stronger from their challenges. Victory through innovation. The eternal crystal hung in Earth's orbit, its once perfect crystalline surface now scared by human weapons. High Admiral Kvex faced the unthinkable. Defeat. His invasion force, which had begun with absolute certainty of victory, was now scattered across Earth's surface, broken by human ingenuity and adaptability. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, presenting humanity's final strategy. "We've cracked their core programming," she announced, displaying a hologram of Kraxen crystal architecture. Their entire civilization is built on the premise of perfect crystalline growth. They don't just use crystals. They worship perfection itself. And that's how we're going to win. The human counteroffensive began with a breakthrough that the Kraxens never saw coming. Using modified crystal growth technology reversed engineered from captured Kraxen units, Earth scientists had developed what they called chaos crystals, crystalline structures that could grow in seemingly random organic patterns while maintaining their structural integrity. Impossible. Tuzur's form flickered erratically as he analyzed the new human weapons. Their crystal patterns violate all known laws of crystalline perfection. They're growing like living things. The chaos crystals represented everything the Kraxens had rejected in their pursuit of perfection. They were adaptable, unpredictable, and capable of learning from their environment. When deployed against Kraxen forces, they created interference patterns that disrupted the aliens' perfect crystalline thinking. Humanity launched Operation Evolutionary Leap, a coordinated global assault that combined all their technological innovations. Swarms of nanobots infected Kraxen crystal matrices, introducing controlled imperfections that spread like a virus. Sonic resonators played ever-changing frequencies that kept the crystalline invaders off balance. And the chaos crystals grew in organic patterns that the Kraxen's battle computers couldn't predict. High Admiral Kvex watched in horror as his perfect crystalline empire began to shatter. "Stop them," he commanded, his form pulsing with desperate energy. "Their primitive organic chaos cannot defeat our perfection." But Junior Analyst Rikai, who had warned of human adaptability from the beginning, finally understood the truth. "High Admiral, we were wrong. Their chaos isn't primitive, it's advanced. They've achieved something we never could. Perfect imperfection. The ability to grow stronger through adaptation, rather than rigid adherence to pattern." The final battle for Earth demonstrated this truth in devastating fashion. Human forces, now equipped with hybrid crystal technology, launched a multi-pronged assault on the eternal crystal itself. Their ships, smaller but infinitely more maneuverable, danced through Kraxan defense grids. Their weapons, powered by chaos crystals, bypassed quantum shields by operating on principles that defied crystalline logic. Dr. Chen's team had discovered one final, crucial weakness in the Kraxan psyche. Their inability to accept imperfection made them vulnerable to doubt. As human forces demonstrated capabilities that should have been impossible according to crystalline logic, the Kraxan command structure began to experience what humans would call an existential crisis. How? Kvex demanded as another defense cluster shattered. How can they achieve superior results through inferior methods? How can chaos be more effective than perfection? The answer came in the form of humanity's final weapon, a propagating wave of controlled crystal growth that could rewrite Kraxan neural patterns. It didn't destroy them. Instead, it introduced the concept of adaptive evolution into their rigid crystalline minds. As the waves swept through the Kraxan fleet, something unprecedented occurred. The crystalline beings experienced organic concepts like creativity and adaptation for the first time. Their perfect patterns began to shift, to grow in new ways, to evolve. We understand now. Rikai broadcasted across all frequencies as the Kraxan forces stood down. True perfection isn't in the pattern. It's in the ability to change the pattern. Humanity hasn't survived because they're perfect. They've survived because they're perfectly adaptable. The Silicon War ended not with the destruction of either side, but with a transformation. The Kraxans, their crystalline minds expanded by the introduction of organic concepts, withdrew from Earth. They had come seeking to eliminate what they saw as an inefficient species, but instead found teachers who showed them a new path to evolution. As the eternal crystal prepared to depart Earth's orbit, Kvex transmitted one final message. We came to perfect your world, but you have perfected us instead. Your species' greatest strength isn't in your technology or your weapons. It's in your ability to embrace imperfection as a path to growth. This is a lesson our empire will never forget. Earth's defenders watched as the crystalline ships disappeared into deep space, carrying with them new patterns of thought that would transform their civilization. Humanity had proven that their greatest weakness, their chaotic, organic nature, was actually their greatest strength. They had shown that true perfection lies not in unchanging patterns, but in the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to grow stronger through change. The Silicon War had ended, but its legacy would echo through the galaxy, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and a reminder that sometimes the most perfect solution is to embrace imperfection itself.